What's up, guys? This is Tyler with Jabbas Dungeon Hub podcast, and today it's just me, and we're going to go through this tier list of horror movie tropes. This list was created by YouTuber Cody Leach a long time ago, and I was just kind of looking for some content to steal from, and this one sounds really fun to me. So I might tag him somewhere. Maybe he'll stumble across this one day. I remember watching his video a long time ago, whenever he would have had it out originally. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to think about these as I go through it without needing any kind of context. But if so, I'll just have to go along with it. I'm going to pretty much just go and maybe just randomly grab one, and we'll just go with that. So I'm keeping the same categories that Cody also used, just because, you know what, it's lazy bullshit. Alright, so starting off, I'm going to go with, never mind, let's just go in order. Addict recovery. Personally, I'm not a big fan of stories where, honestly, I can't really think of any other than like the 2013 Evil Dead. And I wouldn't say I enjoy that plot point, but I do think it makes sense to lead up to why the 2013 movie is kind of more believable of why they're staying at the cabin than the original movie. So just for that, I'm going to put it in I'll tolerate it. I'm not a fan of the idea, but the only one I could think of did pull it off, so that's where I'll keep it. Next is going to be alpha male fights. So in this situation, he's got like the scene from Friday Part 8 with like, knocking his head off. In this situation, I think it's fun and I enjoy it, but if you take something like in Halloween Resurrection with Trick or Treat, it comes off super goofy. So I think it depends on the tone of the movie. So I'm going to put it in I'll also tolerate it, but it depends on the tone that the movie has. Next up is angsty teens. I'm just going to put it in let it die. I cannot think off the top of my head of a single angsty teen character in a horror movie that didn't annoy me. I just can't. So next up is anybody home. I would say this one, I'm going to say it's lazy. It's not inherently bad, but I do feel like it kind of depends on probably the time, place, or the setting that your movie's set in. Especially modern day, everyone pretty much has their doors locked, I would hope, on a constant basis, so no one's going to be coming into your house. So I would say if it's a movie set present day, I would prefer not to see it. If it's like a movie that's either set in the past, like 70s, 80s, or if it was actually filmed in that time period, I'll give it a pass, but I would prefer not to see that kind of rendition in modern movies. Next one is Bitches Be Trippin'. And of course, in any slasher movie you'll watch, there's always the one female character that at some point is running away from the killer and trips over a branch or what have you. And this one, although it's lazy and it's practically it's a given, I'm just going to put it in I need it, because it's just a trope that when I'm watching a slasher movie and you see the character trip, you're always thinking, what are they going to trip on? Now, of course, depending on the tone of the movie, it could either be a more intense chase scene where they might trip over something more believable, or it could be more of a goofy movie where she ends up tripping over a soda can. It's like, and it's drawn out. But I'm not gonna say I enjoy that trope personally. The next one is the black guy always dies, and this is one that I do recall watching in Cody Leach's video, and he explains it with, of course, modern day movies more so. The trope is that they fake you out on thinking that's what's going to happen, but then it doesn't. So I'm going to put this one in probably lazy bullshit. If it's taking it from a comedic approach in an age where horror was very much comedic and made fun of itself, it's a hard subject to tolerate or to even discuss. The only movie, well, even with the image that's chosen here with Night of the Living Dead, I mean, that's such an iconic part of the movie and a backbone into the more political side of filmmaking for that movie compared to the actual plot, I think, of the movie itself. So I don't know, that one, it depends really on the movie, but overall I just think that it's not a problem nowadays as much in movies I would think of, but it's pretty lazy writing. Next one, call in an expert. So this could be in, of course, in a paranormal movie, they call in a paranormal expert, or a preacher. In a slasher movie, they call in, a bounty hunter. I don't know, in that kind of sense. I'm going to put it in also lazy. If it's something, I'm going to say like the newest Exorcist movie, where they call in, of course it's a legacy character, but they call in the mom from the original because she's an expert and knows how to deal with it. Stuff like that just really does not flow in the movie to me, and it really just draws me out. So if you can pull it off well and it makes sense for the plot and it's not a super big plot point, it can work, I think, but it's something you'll see in every single paranormal film. Next one is the character cast. So by this, I'm going to assume that, like, your friend group, I'm going to say they're all Scooby-Doo. You've got the jock guy, you've got the hot girl, the nerd character, the stoner character. When they fall into those categories, when it's in, I want to put it in I'll tolerate it. And it also just depends on the tone of what the movie's going for. If the movie knows that it's trying to be cheesy, it can work. If it thinks it's trying to be an art house piece, it's probably not for the best. So it's going to depend on the type of movie. But overall, I don't hate it if it shows up. Car won't start. Of course, there's always the spot in the slasher movie where whenever a character, most likely, I'm going to say second or third act, depending on where it's placed, characters run to the vehicle and try to start it, and it doesn't start, whether the battery's dead, yada yada. This one I'm going to put in, I'll put it in lazy, just for the fact that I can visualize like one scene in a horror movie where they tease the fact that the car is not going to start, and then it does. Maybe it's Cabin Fever. Or that's early on in the movie. I don't remember, but like in general, it's like, it's a given, especially in so many older slasher movies from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Probably any movie you watch now, still to this day, is going to have a scene with that, and unless there's real tension behind it, it's just not going to hit for me. Next one is cat scare. For the fact that I would say this is a trope that doesn't happen in every movie, I'm going to say You know what? I want to say it could be fun. Depending on, I want to say depending on a lot in this video. It doesn't happen a lot, but I'm a cat guy, and when it turns out to be a cat making the noise instead of the killer, it's fun. I would prefer the scene instead of being just a genuine cat scare. It usually goes cat scare, character lets their guard down, and then it's the actual issue, like the problem. Maybe if movies could start to do like, they build up to the scare and then it ends up just being the cat, and maybe you ditch that scare for a little bit of the movie. Like if you place it maybe more early on instead of at a point where the killer might jump out immediately after. I don't know. I don't hate the trope because it doesn't happen all the time. Next one would be crazy religion. So when I think of this, I'm thinking of maybe some type of like cult, like horror movie where people are trying to sacrifice people to a deity or for their culture, or like the crazy religious character. We'll say like the mom in Carrie. I want to say I'll tolerate it because it can kind of go either way. Either I think it can be a really interesting plot point and something you can talk about, or it can just make your eyes roll. It's one or the other. Next one is creepy dolls. I'm not a big fan of movies with creepy dolls in it, and it's not because I'm creeped out by the dolls. I just genuinely do not think it's a scary premise to me. It's more so hilarious, so it's not. I'm gonna put it in lazy though, because when I do think about it, I don't dislike characters like Chucky or Megan, the Annabelle doll in the Conjuring movies. It's just, it never has actually struck me personally as scary. But I know there's a big demographic out there of people, they love it, so we'll keep it there. Creepy kid, whether it's in like The Omen or The Shining or something where kids are just off-putting, or they like run behind you in the back of the frame. I'm gonna say this could be fun because there's just something off-putting about like a kid who's supposed to be like this nice, sweet, you're not expecting anything wrong to happen, and then it ends up being that kid is evil or possessed or whatnot. It could be a fun concept, so I'm going to put it in this could be fun. But with kids, we're going to go to creepy kid drawings. I hate this. Anytime that there's a movie that involves kids drawing something, I hate it. Because it's always what the teacher finds the drawing and shows the parents, or the parents stumble across the drawing. And they're always like, why is my perfectly sane child drawing this atrocious looking demon killing our family? And they don't do anything about it. If I drew something scary like that as a kid, I would hope that my teacher would, call on a conference and say, hey, this kid needs help. So personally, since it never pans out usually, and even if they do get into trouble, it'll be like one of the parents say, oh, he's having a hard time because of the move or because of the loss of grandma. And they always try to rationalize it. I don't care for it. But back with the creepy. Listen, one of my favorite things about the original Friday the 13th is Ralph just popping up at the beginning of the movie, and I forget what he says exactly, but something like, you're going to die. Jason's there. Whatever he does, I personally think that old people being creepy, it makes more sense and it's more realistic, because how many times are you out somewhere and you just see an old person that just gives you the creepy vibe, So I'm going to put it, actually, I wouldn't say that I need it in every horror movie, but I feel like it's very realistic. And any idea I can think of, it's either realistic or it's goofy funny. So, Next up is Creepy Town. And I'm going to say I'll tolerate it. Or, actually, let's put it in this could be fun. Because with this kind of concept, you can either have it to where the whole mystique of the town going into the movie is that it's creepy, or you can have it to be where it seems to be a nice, normal neighborhood, and then there's something sinister going on. And that kind of plot point is really fun for me. So I think it can pan out well. Think of like House of Wax, stuff like that, where there's just something off immediately when you get there. It just doesn't feel right. Next is going to be Cursed Object. I'm going to also put this in This Could Be Fun. Of course, they use the box from Hellraiser, and I've only seen, I think, 3 Hellraiser movies, and they're not my favorite. But, I mean, when you loop back to, like, the Conjuring movies with objects like that, I think it's cool to have, like, objects in a movie that have lore behind it and can explain you why things are happening. So I don't inherently see anything wrong with it. The Dark Basement. I'm going to put it in lazy. I mean, a lot of movies are going to have this, especially if it's a paranormal jump scare type, or the demon's going to be in the basement, or if it's found footage, they're going to go in the basement, and then they're going to get scared by their partner, shining a flashlight onto them from the stairwell or something. It's genuinely creepy in real life, but when you see it in a movie, I feel like it's one of those moments where you just think, don't go down there, So I don't hate it. I would say I'm not ranking these in like how close do I put it to the next category, but if I was, it would be almost I'd tolerate it, but I've got to put it in lazy. Next one is Double Tap. I don't know by this if Cody meant that they don't double tap the killer whenever they should, or when they actually do it. So let's say in the Scream movies at the end, Ghostface always gets double tapped. But then there's movies, like in other franchises where the killer is down and the characters could put them out of their misery, but instead they wait too long just for the killer to wake back up. So I'm going to put it, since I don't know exactly what he means by this, I'm going to put it in I'll tolerate it. Realistically, you should double tap. If Jason walked in here and I shot him once and took him down, I'm double tapping him again. So I would say depends on the killer, depends on the movie. I need more context on that. Next one is Dream Fake Out. I'm going to put it in lazy. Something like this where it's short in the movie and it's more at the end is like a bonus in the original Friday the 13th. I like because it's not super big to the plot. But then you have a movie like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 where the first 20 minutes is a dream sequence and you don't know it, just for the movie to actually start and none of it live up to the hype of that intro. So if you can do it right and it's in small increments and it's not super imperative to the plot, I like it. But generally, dream sequences just don't work out. Next is Dumb Characters, which I feel like is pretty much an entire cast of a horror movie, especially if it was self-aware. So I'm going to also put it in I'll tolerate it, just due to the fact that depending on the type of movie we're going into, they could be fun dumb or they could just be dumb dumb. Which I think there's another one on here I saw with Dumb Cops. So I'll get into that one more specifically when it gets here. Next one is Dying Flashlight. So once again, we're in like the dark, creepy basement, and the flashlight goes out. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a lot that have it in it, but the shot here is from, I think, Barbarian. If it's modern day, who's using a flashlight? If we're being honest, you're going to have your phone out and you're going to use your phone flashlight. Now, of course, your phone could almost be dead. You don't want to use your battery, but no one's carrying around an actual flashlight these days. So I'm going to put it in, I'll tolerate it, because it's going to depend on if it's an older movie, older setting where flashlights are more realistic, or is it in a situation where you're using your smartphone? Which I prefer movies not even have smartphones in them in the first place, but that's another topic. Next is found footage. Generally, I do not like found footage. Movies like Wreck, I enjoy and I can appreciate. Some of the Paranormal Activities, I feel like they have their ups and they also have their downs, but I feel like that the subgenre is super overcrowded, overrated, or I'm basically to the point where generally I don't want it anymore. Unless you can come up with a crazy new concept on found footage, or like family videos like the VHS series, which the newest one was my first experience with the franchise, and generally I don't really find myself watching any more of them. It's just not for me. Next is hiding under the bed. I don't know if this means like something spooky is under the bed, or if your character is hiding from the killer under the bed. I'm going to say it's lazy, because personally, I wouldn't be able to crawl under my bed if I was trying to hide from something. I don't know how many people can fit under their beds. Usually, even when it is like these hiding under the bed stereotypes, it's usually a kid going under the bed, or it's somehow an adult character ends up in like a jacked up bed off the ground to where they can actually fit. And personally, I don't see that happening. But you can have some pretty intense sequences where you're trying to hide from the killer. So that's why I'll keep it in lazy, but yeah. Next is I drop the keys. Very realistic. Personally, I drop keys all the time. And I'm sure if I was in a horror movie, I would drop the keys. But it's one of those where when you watch the movie and it happens, you're yelling at the character saying you're so dumb. So, and this one, I'm going to put it in I'll tolerate it also, because it can happen and it's realistic, but it's not something I long to look forward to in a movie, but it can add its own benefit. However, I dropped the weapon. If you are in a situation and I have Michael Myers walking towards me, I'm not dropping my gun, or I'm not dropping the knife. Like, I'm taking them down no matter what I have to do. Quit that. Because those characters fall into the dumb category, where you had one job and you probably could have done it, but instead you dropped it and you've lost your chance and now you're gonna die. Next up is I'll be right back. In a movie like Scream, that's where it's self-parroting, characters saying like, oh, I'm going to go grab a beer, I'll be right back. Oh, I gotta go do something, I'll be right back. And then they end up dying. I would say it can be fun, especially whenever you know that they're going to die and you're looking forward to possibly that character dying. It can be fun. I'm not going to lie on that one. The next one is incompetent cops. And when I think of this, I think of Halloween 5, any kind of situation where, or even in Scream, where the cop character just isn't what you want or expect an actual officer to be like. It's usually on the goofy side. Movies where I can think of that are more serious tone might be like in Barbarian, where you have the main girl, you know, is like walking down the street or whatnot after she escapes the basement and finds the cops, and they basically just shrug her off because she looks like a crackhead instead of someone who is trapped in a basement. That's like a realistic incompetent, where that one just infuriates me because you should go check this out. And if they're dumb in the sense that they're like actually like stupid, you're not supposed to be in this job. So this one I'm gonna put in Let It Die. At least make the cop seem like they're at least attempting to do something, even if it is just go check on the house when someone says there's a killer in there. At least they're doing their job. Next one is Inconsistent Strength, as seen right here with Scream 5. This is supposed to be, forget the character's name, but Mikey Madison, when she is playing Ghostface when she kills Dewey. Even though she's supposed to be like probably 5'4", 120 pounds or whatnot, and he's a full-grown man. This one, I'm gonna put it in Let It Die. I know in the situation it's supposed to be something that like keeps the mystique going of Ghostface as a character. It's not supposed to lead you on to who it might be, but I don't know, it's not realistic. Next one is Native American Burial Ground. Kind of borders on slightly, I don't know if it would be 100% racist, but also it has, if you add some historical things to it, it could be fun, like Pet Sematary. That's classic and features a burial ground. So I'll put it and I'll tolerate it. It's not bad. Next one is going to be Internet Exposition. Character doesn't know what to do, so they Google the demon and find a Wikipedia page on the demon and how to defeat it. No. No. The only exception I can see with this is if it's more so gathering small pockets of information on, like, maybe they're researching the missing people in the area. But when it comes down to, I'm going to find this demon's whole backstory, no. It's all in your head. I'm going to say it could be fun, because, you know, something like Smile, where the demon is trying to make you go crazy, and things are happening that maybe only you see and you think is real, but then the things that it plays with your mind a lot, and that kind of stuff can be scary. So I'm going to say it can be pretty fun. But back to dreams, of saying it was a dream, kind of goes back with what I said about the dream fake out, where it's lazy, which I guess kind of go hand in hand, maybe with it's all in your head, but it's from two different perspectives. So when it's a dream sequence and you know 100% it did not happen, it's not scary to me. But something that may or may not be going on and you can't tell yourself yes or no if it's real, that bothers me. Next one is the jock bullies. And I'm going to put this also up here, and this could be fun, because let's be honest, growing up, at least personally, I was never like bullied 100% necessarily by a jock, but if someone was to make me probably feel bad in some degree, it was going to be a jock character. So, and these characters usually don't end up having the best outcome in a horror movie. So, I'm going to say it can be fun to watch, especially when they're overly playing into the stereotype. Jump scares, I'm going to put it in lazy, because we've got to the point, especially with so many PG-13 Blumhouse horror movies, where all it is something goes boo in the dark. for 2 seconds and disappears. That's flooded the movie sphere with just these run-of-the-mill horror movies that come out. And I feel like jump scares, we probably haven't had too many great jump scares in recent memory. And it's not going to turn me off from the movie when I'm watching it, but if it becomes so repetitive where every single scare in the movie it's just a big loud noise and something jumping out at you, you can do better than that. Next one is just die already. So in this situation it would be where, I shot him 6 times, but Michael's still up walking. You shoot Michael in the eyes and he's still walking. You hit Jason in the forehead with an axe and he's still walking. It's just you think you got him down, but they're still coming at you. And I'm gonna say that's a classic part of a slasher movie where you literally think, oh, I've got this in the bag, or that's when the character's gonna come out victorious, and the killer just keeps on coming, and it makes them such a force to be reckoned with that I've always enjoyed that. Next one is just keep running. I'm starting to run out of space here. I'm gonna have to put this, and I'll tolerate it. Let me move my camera down here now. Just because, in a lot of movies you're gonna have to run away from the killer to regroup, find a new hiding spot, let the killer get away so you can advance the plot. And it's not bad necessarily, it's just I feel like you have to have it, but there's nothing inherently bad or good about this. Then let's split up. When you watch a movie and one of the characters says, oh, I'm gonna go do this by myself, or let's split our group up so that we get murdered. It's been done and beaten to death over and over and over again. Now, of course, if you want to go with modern day campy self-aware, you can make the characters joke about it, but then it can come off as too jokey if the movie's serious. But if you watch an older movie, I'm gonna say it mainly depends, but overall I just don't like it. If you're in a weird spot, personally, I would not split up from my friends. If I was in a cornfield with a bunch of killers, it's stupid. Library exposition, I pretty much feel this the same way I do about the internet. I forget what movie I'd watched recently, but I feel like the characters went to their high school library and found out a way to kill something. And it gives, Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a bad way. Because at least in Buffy, when the characters went to the library and got their exposition, it was either A, because the school was built on top of the Hellmouth, where there was a watcher designated, so inside of the library he kept things about that, or 2, they purchased the magic shop, which is supposed to be a place where they sell merchandise and books about paranormal. But your local high school's not going to have a demonology book, I think. I haven't checked personally, but it's just very unbelievable for me. And this next one is Love Blooms. I'm not 100% what Cody's meaning by this one. That means between like a romance starting with characters in the movie. I'm gonna say I'll tolerate it, because it can either lead to nothing. I have no opinion on it, and I'm not 100% sure what that is supposed to mean. But I'm not against a romantic horror movie. Mirror scare. It can go along with It's All in Your Head. But so many movies, the character looks in the mirror They're normal, they look away, they look back, and there's the demon staring at them, or their face gets all disfigured. I want to say, unless it can maybe do something like the original Smile has done. Excuse me. It's just, it kind of cringes me out. Moving into Creepy House. I'm also gonna say I'm gonna put it in I'll tolerate it, because sometimes the movies, I want to say like Clown in a Cornfield. That's one that sticks with me, where she moves into this house with her father and she can just tell that there's something odd about this place, where it comes off just very cringe, very it's going to be bad, and the characters know it's going to be bad. But you can also have movies like The Conjuring, where you move into a new house and the creepiness, it just gets to you. So it's going to depend on how well they're able to pull off the film, but you just have to watch and see where it goes. No cell phone service. If it was something where they're out in the woods and they miraculously don't have cell phone signal after they walk an extra half mile, sure, I'm believing it. But I feel like most of the time when I see this no service thing, it's when they're just out. They're downtown New York City and they walk into an abandoned warehouse and they don't have cell phone service. So I'm gonna put it in lazy. Unless your movie's taking place in the middle of nowhere, don't use this. I would rather, I don't know, use the landline phone in your movie. I don't know. Next one is nobody carrying, which especially when a movie's set in a more conservative area, or even modern days, if you're trying to make a modern day slasher, I feel like this is a problem, because I know people carry. People carry all the time. So imagine if we're watching a Halloween, and let's say the original Halloween, Bob carried. Maybe Bob could have shot Michael, and he could have ended it. So I think it's an interesting idea. I would like to see an instance where someone is carrying, though. So I'm going to put this one in lazy, because I want to see more of people actually carrying. Next one is nobody believes protagonist. I'm going to also put it down here in lazy, because I'll take Evil Dead 2013. They all think that she's having withdrawal symptoms, and it's really that she's getting possessed, and they just don't believe her. Yeah. I feel like it's in every single paranormal kind of movie where that happens, and I feel like it's not something you can get away from either, so I think it just has to stay where it's at. Old footage exposition, I'm going to put it right along there with internet and library. Only movie I could think of that uses this to its benefit might be Sinister, where it's kind of the main character is a researcher and he's researching these home videotapes about this phenomenon. So in that situation, it's not only exposition, it's also part of the plot and a plot point of the movie. But some movies, of course, it'll just stumble upon a clip just like you would in the library or on the internet, and it tells you exactly what you need to know. One last scare, so this is going to be right before the movie ends, the killer pops back out, Jason, grabs you through the window, or Freddy ends up taking Nancy's mom through the front door into the vehicle, stuff like that. I want to say it can be fun because it could add like that one last instance where you get excited before the movie ends. Next one is pet warnings. And I'm going to say also it can be fun because if anything, especially if it's a dog in a movie, they're going to sense something's going wrong. Now, granted, most of the time the characters don't care and the dog ends up dying, but I feel like it's very realistic, and it also just makes you like afraid because you know the pets, whatever they're seeing, it's actually happening. Next one's premonition. And I want to say it can be fun because in like the original Final Destination and things like that, where when a character just feels like something's going to happen and they can't prove it, it can be a funny concept because it's like deja vu. And sometimes you can think in your head, if I'm going to do this a certain way, this won't happen. So I think that can be kind of fun. Red herring. I'm going to assume by this he just means something that's like it lays the plot point early in the movie and then it kind of follows into it as like little Easter egg scenes. So I want to say like in a movie where you're trying to guess the killer. I'm going to put it in it could be fun because it leaves you guessing. Just don't go for the generic answer though. The next one is risky sex. I feel like having sex in a horror movie in general is risky. So I don't know with this one. I'm going to have to put it in... I'll tolerate it because I'm not sure exactly what that means by risky. Maybe it means in the situation where you're probably going to end up getting killed by the killer because you're doing it in the campground with the windows wide open. Jason sees you, he's going to kill you. I don't know, but I mean, like, if that's the case, I mean, that's pretty much every 80s slasher is going to have that, so it's kind of part of it. Running from car, it doesn't happen a lot off the top of my head, but I'm going to say it can be fun because it'd be a scary feeling just taking off from a vehicle, not knowing who's driving it, or that it's going to run you over, it's going to follow you wherever you go. Running upstairs, don't go upstairs in a horror movie. If you're running from the killer especially, don't do it. Unless you have something up there to like definitely take out the killer, but otherwise like just don't go up there. It should speak for itself. Next one, sex equals death. I'm going to say I'm a sucker for that in any horror movie where it's just part of the culture of like 80 slashers that the pure final girl character is going to live because she's a good kid, whereas her best friend that has sex with her boyfriend all the time ends up getting killed. It's a part of it. It's a classic part. Next one is sharpshooter. I can't really think what this would relate to in a horror movie, if I'm being honest, since there's not a lot of guns. I'd have to probably refresh more so on the Cody Leach's video to understand what he means by this. So I'm just going to leave it off the list for now. Next one is signature weapon. And I'm going to say that's what makes your slasher character a slasher. Freddy has his glove. Michael has a knife. Jason has an axe. Like these characters, especially when they have that theme around them, it just makes them feel more complete when they have their signature item. Oh, excuse me. When you don't have that item, then you just kind of become a run-of-the-mill killer, and you don't have that individuality that really makes you who you are. Sound gives away hiding spot. Wow, real. It always happens where there's a creak. You somehow shift your leg slightly and your shoe squeaks. It happens every time. Survivor exposition. So I'm guessing it would be like in the sense where, someone who has survived this killer before returns and gives you their take on what happened. This one I'm gonna put it in lazy because it's another one of those. Oh, this is how I defeated it. Talking about like the original Exorcist mother in the newest movie. It's in that realm. Next one, some TNA. I feel like modern day movies, you don't need it as much, and it never needed to be as prevalent as it was back in the day. But there's just something just inherently, you just expect it, So that's why I gotta put it in. This could be fun because any movie you watch and it's a schlocky horror movie, and honestly, if it's that bad and you think it's gonna have a lot of nudity in it and it doesn't, then you just feel let down. At least I do. Because that's what I'm thinking is going to be in there, and then it's not. So, next one's The Final Girl. That's what makes a slasher movie. Slasher movies, you need your icon, and you need the final girl. That's it. That's all what you need at the end of the day. So, there's no denying Final Girl. You have to have that. This one, the killer teleports. And this is definitely, you can debate it, in each franchise, how Jason can somehow be there, how Michael can be there. And I would say, is it realistic? No. But is it a fun thing? Yeah. I don't have to have it, though, because I would much prefer a more realistic way for the killer to get from one place to another. But I don't hate it. This next one is Trauma Reignited. So let's say characters dealing with something with, in Friday the 13th, Tommy Jarvis. We got 3 movies with him where he experiences trauma as a kid, and it kind of carries with him onto the next 2 movies. I'd say I can tolerate it because it can be okay. Like Halloween H2O, like that Laurie is very believable, but then you have the 2018 Laurie, and it's very much not very believable. So it depends on, I feel like, how you go about that. Based on a true story, unfortunately though, when you see this in a movie, that there's probably only 1% of the movie actually happened or that it's based on, and the rest is not. It's a good sales gimmick, especially back in before the internet was so accessible and a lot of word of mouth on promoting movies, but modern day, I don't want to see it anymore unless it's actually talking about something that actually did happen. Next one is Turn a Light On. I guess in the sense, if you're trying to tell the character to turn a light on, they should just do it. I want to say, I'm gonna put it in tolerate because I don't know which way it's leaning. I'm gonna put it in lazy because just turn on the light. If it's dark, turn on a light. If you can't turn on a light, use the flashlight. But it's gonna die, right? Next one is Twist Ending. So, in this, of course, it's like you think you have the plot all figured out. You think you know who the killer is, and then the last 10 minutes, you get the shocking revelation that you're wrong. And when a twist is done right, it can be really great for the movie. So, I love thinking what I'm going to expect is going to happen, and then it doesn't. It's a great feeling. Next one is Unoriginal Demons. I mean, if I'm being honest, any kind of paranormal movie that revolves around demonic possession. They all kind of follow the same format that The Exorcist laid out, honestly, and I'm just gonna say that I'll tolerate it, but it's going to depend on how the movie goes. If it tries something unique, it does. If it doesn't, it's just going to feel like the 1,000 other possession movies that are out there. Next one is useless husband or parents. There's always the character like the final girl, her boyfriend or whatnot is just dumb as rocks, or something like that, or the parents don't care enough about the kid, and it's an almost it's a given that the partner is going to just be an idiot. It's trope. I mean, sometimes if they can be comedic, actually, I'll tolerate it. If they're at least comedic and they're a likable character, but if they're an actual, like, you cringe every time they're on screen, I don't want to see that. Next one is, what was that noise? I'm going to have to put it down here in lazy, because what was that noise? It kind of follows in with like the cat scare or something, where you can hear something goes jump in the night or it rattles and you got to figure out what it was, and it ends up not being scary, you know. The next one is, you got a pretty mouth. I can't tell if that's Wrong Turn. I think that's an image from Wrong Turn. We're talking about if a character's pretty, especially if it's coming from like a creepy character, you know, like the hot girl in the friend group comes into backwoods town and they got to hit on how hot she is. I want to say it's lazy, kind of realistic, but you can do without it. Yeah, so I'm back on Sharpshooter, and I wish I would have reviewed the video with Cody Leach just to see what he means by Sharpshooter. But I'm going to say my interpretation is, if there is like the military trained prolific shooter who's in there who can take down the target, or even if it's a character that maybe doesn't have necessarily upfront experience but is still able to land perfect shots, I'm going to put it and I'll tolerate it, because I don't know 100% what it's meaning here. But yeah, so this is my final verdict. Honestly, a lot more went into these two categories than what I thought. I thought there'd be a lot more in the I Need It. So it looks like I just really like slasher movies from, I would say, these top two categories. Which adds up. But anyway, like I said, this is Cody Leach's template. I'll have it linked in our description for sure. And make sure you check us out. We're on all different forms of social media. So we'll have our links to like Instagram, our letterboxes, etc., TikTok down below. And do your own video, or even like and subscribe and comment if you agree with my list and what you might want to change. This has been Tyler from Tyler's Dungeon, signing out.